Good afternoon guys and welcome to the third part of our van build. In this video I'm going to be insulating and carpeting the space above the bulkhead, but first of all I'm going to be installing a massive light bar on the roof. On our small van Bruce we had a big light bar and it was a godsend when we were travelling through Scotland. The ability to be able to see further and to see right into the sides of the road is a massive help, especially when there's deer everywhere like there is in Scotland. So it's a bit of a no-brainer to have a big light on this van too. So we'll get stuck right in. I'll be building this van on a budget with as many recycled and reclaimed materials as possible. Join us as we convert this blank canvas into our new dream home equipped with everything needed for full-time van life on the road. So apparently the postman has just arrived with a really long package, so it might be our big light. Certainly looks the right size. So Bruce's light that we got was like 70 quid. This one was 30 and it's bigger. Our old van Bruce, the switch on it had like a strobe light effect, but we never used it. That's going to be so much easier. So let's get all this out. But here is the massive light bar. Look at that. So this wasn't actually due until Friday, so it's quite good that it's arrived early because if you remember me saying we can't do any of the space up there until we get holes drilled for this and the wire fed through and all the rest. It's great news, although it is raining. I mean, it's literally raining in the door right now. Should probably close that, everything's getting wet. That's why we haven't bothered doing the silicone yet, because we just keep getting it soaking. And we're considering maybe just getting the silicone out and not redoing it, because any water that gets in that door, or any spillages we have, it's just going to turn it grey like that. It looks crap. We'll come back to that one. It's been raining for ages, so I'm hoping it's softened up some of this algae stuff on the roof. So I've just poured myself some of that caravan cleaner, and I'm going to get this cleaned up, because today's operation is getting that light bar installed so that I can get bolted through the roof and start lining the inside of that space above the cab. There's your big light bar. It's pretty much as long as that box, so you can imagine it's going to fill a big chunk of that roof. Obviously I'm not going to have it pointing up, it's adjustable, but I've got to point it up just so it doesn't lean forwards. Not quite sure where to put it on the front of this. Don't think it matters that much because you can angle this. But basically when you buy one of these, you're going to get some bolts and some legs, and then you get this extremely short cable. So I'll bolt through and I'll be drilling a hole here and feeding the cable down and then putting silicone around it. Then the cable's going to come out under here somewhere and then it gets connected all up to this, I think they call it a harness system. So I've got my measuring tape and I've got a Sharpie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure up from the window, make a mark, do the same on that side, and then what I'll do is I'll be measuring the distance between the two bits of black trim, minusing off the width between the 2 feet, dividing it by 2 and then measuring that in on each side, and that should give me a little mark on both sides where I need to drill a hole to bolt that on. I've actually just noticed while I'm up here that there's these wee grommets. Yeah, I can see insulation and bubble wrap inside there. I might actually drill a hole in that grommet and feed the cable through that. That makes far more sense. There's my little mark. Not the first line, the second one. That's why I always measure twice, because you might have just been off a little bit. There's another mark somewhere over there as well. So time to get drilling a couple of these holes, get this bolted through. This is the original nut and bolt for attaching it to the roof, but I went and found one of these bolts, well in fact 2 of those bolts in my random selection of stuff. So I'm actually going to use this on the underside of the roof. We're going to have bolt and washer go through the hole, through that hole, and then I'm going to have that bolt on the other side. And I'm going to put some silicone under the washer here, and I've just got Wilkinson's bathroom sealant. So in fact, I'm actually going to put silicone under the foot, not under this, because that's where I'm going to want it to be watertight. So let's do that. So now all I need to do is get on the inside and tighten this. I'm going to have to go get someone to pinch this while I tighten it, because obviously I can't be inside and outside the van at the same time. And then that'll compress that silicone underneath. All bolted in, so you can twist the angle on it. You probably want it aiming down quite far, but not so far the light's going to hit the roof. Pretty good to me. So now I'm going to drill a hole in this grommet with a drill bit wider than the cable. Well, that's a nice snug fit. And here comes the cable through the roof. So fill that with silicone, attach it to the cables inside, connect it to the van battery, and see if it works. I hope so, because I've just drilled bloody holes in the roof. I had to put the phone down because that was fiddly, but I've managed to get a nice bead of silicone protecting where that cable goes in. Right, so it takes 24 to 36 hours and it's due to rain, so I'm going to find like a plastic cup or something to put over that just to protect it. This is how I'm going to protect this bit of cable while it rains. That is by far the most hillbilly fix I have ever done. In fact, I think that's an insult to hillbillies. They've got more tact than I have on this one, but it's going to do. So let's move on and get the wire connected, which is under here. So it took me ages to find the battery in this van. The battery is not under the bonnet, it's actually under the floor, in the middle of the floor. We have to check that this is long enough to run from there, down the back of the bulkhead. Then the switch is massive. It only needs to go from the battery, which is like in the floor there, to maybe there next to the steering wheel. So yeah, it's massive. I'm gonna have to hide all that cable somewhere. So this cable is supposed to connect to the one that comes through the ceiling. You know, it's got these fancy little clips on them, but I don't have the male version of these, so I'm actually just gonna have to cut these off. But what I do have is these block things, so each of these can be cut off individually. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna snap 2 of these off together, strip that off, strip the wires that come through the roof, and connect these up. Now, if you do use these blocks, you always have to check the ampage on them, because obviously some of them are only designed to carry so much power. These are absolutely massive. They should have no problem carrying 10 amps. That wasn't easy to film, but basically I've soldered the 2 bits of wire together just to give it extra strength. Now I'm going to slide this block over the top so that the wire join is right in the middle, and then I'm just going to tighten up those screws, and that's that, nicely safely joined. So I've just cut this lino a bit shorter because it's in the way. We're going to have a nice piece of wood flushing this off, so I wasn't really bothered about the wibbliness of it. Now there's a little bit of a gap between the bulkhead. You can see down there there's a cab, so the whole cable system is going to get fed down there and into the cab, where we can connect up to the battery and then mount the switch. While I'm up here with this block, I'm just going to secure it to that bit of plastic just so it stays and doesn't get tugged when while we're fiddling with wires underneath. So to secure it, I've just got one of these. It's like a little sticky back pad, and then you can put a cable tie through it and around that. I've secured it there and I've secured it there. We'll probably just lay the carpet and insulation over that, or just cut a hole around it and feed it round. We'll figure it out. But that's it now going down. So we're going to try and wire it up to the battery now. So this is where the wire's coming in, and I'm just going to use these little wire holder thingies. And you just nail. Oh, I've just lost one. So I'm just going to pin the wire out the way to make it a bit neater. So I'm just going to tack it against this beam here. Ow. That whole cable system is running around the back of the chairs and coming out here. And luckily, looks like the perfect length. So if I'm right, the battery's under here. Look at the neck of these bolts. That is not going to be fun to get off at all. This is supposed to be Torx, but I can see that someone's just cut it to make it like a flathead. And I'm having to use a bloody L bracket to just about pinch and turn that bolt. And each one of these bolts has their own bloody problem, because that one's mangled into the metal and the one at the back is just shredded to bits. But what I might do is do what they did here and try and cut like a slit in it so that I can use an L bracket like a tool. Bloody hell. Look at the state of that. There was no getting those bolts out. We cut into them with the hobby drill with a metal blade to make it like a flathead screwdriver shape. I tried to use these like L brackets, and even they were bending. Those bolts were not giving. And basically what we had to do was mangle this by cutting a slit into this using a hammer to pry open those bits. I mean, it's a filthy job. I mean, there's quite a lot of metal surface here, so I think we'll just put a screw hole there and flatten this back out and then just screw it in. So yeah, a bit of a nightmare that. Unbelievable. But there's the battery, so it's time to connect up those cables and see if this light works. Right, here's an update. Oh, I didn't film a lot of that because there was an awful lot of swearing. This is the old terminal from the battery, and it is a mess, and I could not get that bolt to move for the life of me. We just about managed to free up this bolt here enough to get this terminal off. So I've put a new terminal on, and then I've connected the negative of the light, and then there's a fuse and I've connected the positive to the battery. This is the actual van negatives. So I've left them disconnected for now. So yeah, I'm going to cable tie that out the way. Cables come up here, and then we've got the button, and it's got power. It says it's off. Yeah. Good morning and welcome to the chaos of the van. Trying to have an entire workshop in the van while building it. It's not easy. But there is good news this morning. The bolt that comes through from the roof light is bone dry, which is great news because that means all those holes have sealed fine and the silicone has bonded with the roof. Because it did rain last night a little bit. If you remember, we managed to get the negative cable off of the battery but couldn't get the terminal connector off of the cable. Well, we left it soaking in WD-40 overnight and my mum's partner went and undone it in the space of like 5 seconds. It's nothing to do with manlyhood. Me and my brother weakened it, that's what we're going to say. But either way, it's off, which is great news. And look at the nick of it. So here's the plate that we had to cut. I've kind of mangled it back into shape. For now, I'm literally just going to lay it in place. I'm going to have to screw new holes and new bolts and all the rest to make that secure, but because we're not driving anywhere, there's no danger of this sliding off or anything like that. The two cables here, one of them is the power for the LED bar on the roof, and one of them's for the switch. The last stage is installing this switch. All I've done is take the switch cable, run it up under here, along here, you see it, that one. I'm going to tack it with a few of these, probably just nail it into the rubber just to keep it secure and out of the way of my feet when I'm driving. Then what I've done is I've brought it up and through this, which is a flap under the steering wheel, and then when this flaps back up, the cable can come out here and I can take the switch and probably put it maybe there. Control for the lights are here anyway, so sticking it there probably makes sense. So I'm going to do that, strap all this up, hide the excess cable, just cable tie it up somewhere, and that should be job done. So, oh, hello chicken. The next step is lining the inside of that with Reflectix, which is this stuff here. It's basically a bubble wrap made out of foil. It's really important to make a moisture barrier between the wall of the van and the inside of the van. Otherwise the warm air just condenses on the cold metal, and that's how you end up with condensation just dripping inside the van. Which it is doing right now. You can see that it's been dripping down on this stuff. So that's an example of the warm air touching the cold van causing condensation. That's why you have insulation and a layer of this stuff, and often carpet as well. Because that space is so thin, we haven't actually got any insulation to use on it, so we're just going to use this. It is technically a form of insulation itself because it's got, you know, air bubbles and stuff in it. I would never recommend insulating the entire van with that stuff, definitely not. But for just above the bulkhead where it's just going to be storage for pans and stuff, we're not too worried. We're going to have a curtain across here, so that'll minimise a lot of heat loss and stuff anyway. So yeah, that's today's mission. I'm actually working today, but this is my lunch break, so I'm going to try to smash out as much as I can in the next hour and try not get completely covered in spray adhesive because I'm going to be using a lot of it today. So let's get cracking. But basically what I'm going to do is cut a sheet of Reflectix the size of the bottom of this, a sheet the size of the top, stick the two together, and then tape it all up, and then try and line it with carpet. So as you can see, I've joined up all the Reflectix. It looks a bit messy in here, but that's just because of the mechanism. We'll neaten that up with the carpet and stuff. So what I've done with the carpet is I've cut it to be as long as that, plus the height of that, plus the length of this, plus a bit, because you always want to have extra. There's beams along here that I've tacked it into and I've pushed it in, but now I've pulled it out because what I'm going to have to do is get the spray glue in here and do this whole bottom section up the walls, and then I'm going to let that set, and then I'm going to do the ceiling part of it. It's going to be messy work. I'm probably going to have glue all over my arms, but we'll see how I get on, I suppose. So it's not perfect, but it is lined. I've also built a little partition here, and I made it all wibbly at the top so that the air can flow between to make sure it doesn't, you know, gather moisture. The next step is I've made this beautiful piece of wood, and it's going to go along this edge and cover where that lino finishes. But we also went and got this, which is from our original van. We always thought we would keep this piece of wood, So we're going to mount it in this corner. I've just got to cut it so the door can still open, which is good because it'll cut off this kind of broken split bit. And then I'll be lining the rest with that bit of wood there. It's going to look absolutely amazing. So it's the next morning, so now we're seeing it in daylight. We're probably going to have a curtain on each side. Pots, pans, jackets, I don't know, we'll figure it out. But the point is we're going to have curtains to hide what's in there. The sun's coming out. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you've got any questions, just drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. But that's the end of this video, so I'll catch you guys next week for part number 4.